everyone, this is the fifth video of Selenium Grid using Docker series, and today we are going to discuss about how we can automate the process of starting the Docker and then terminating the Docker when our test execution is completed. So in our previous video, if you remember, we discussed about how we can dynamically create the nodes which are part of our hub and node architecture. So those nodes we can create dynamically as per our requirement, as per whenever the test execution is in picture, on basis of a TOML file that was generated, right? But still we were doing the Docker compose up command manually, right? And then our Selenium grid was setting up, then the nodes were coming into the picture, and then we were executing our test, right? So instead of doing this thing manually, it is better to automate this process as well. Like whenever you are uh, doing this thing like Docker compose up, instead of going to the command prompt and executing that command and then waiting whether your Selenium grid is up and running or not, and then executing the test case, let the Java code, let the automated test case handle this thing, right? So for achieving this thing, what we can do is we need to create two bat files, one for Docker compose up and the other for Docker compose down. Now the one command which is related to Docker compose up will send the logs of that command to a txt file, right? And whenever the Docker compose down will be triggered, at that time as well, like the content of this because this will impact your this command as well. So there will be, say, your Selenium grid is up and running, but when you execute this command on the same window, there will be other logs generated as well that Selenium grid is terminating, something like that, right? So we will have a single log file for both of these command, and that log file will be part of our this particular bat file, right? And then using Java runtime, uh, we will execute the bat files as per our requirement. Whenever we want to up the Docker compose, we'll execute this particular bat file, and whenever we want to terminate the Docker compose, we will execute this particular bat file. Now manually we were able to see in the command prompt whether the Selenium grid is up and running or not. But for checking it dynamically, we will be needing this log file. We will be scanning this log file to see particular messages which are relevant to us. Like in case of start, there will be a message that uh, Docker grid is setup is completed, something like that. And in case of a termination, there will be a message like uh, say Selenium hub is terminating, something like that, right? So once we see that our grid is up and running, we will perform the test execution. And in this test execution, as we already saw in our last tutorial, we will already be using dynamically node generation, right? So like here we are making more efficient. Like previously when we were doing it like dynamically node generation, at that time the process was efficient as well. But now we are completely like automating this part as well, like Docker compose. Whenever we need to execute the complete test suite, only at that time your Docker containers will come into the picture, all the Docker containers. Previously we were just focused on the Docker containers related to your nodes. Now the hub part and the Docker node which was responsible to dynamically triggering your test nodes, right? So the next thing is like again the same thing. We will execute this particular file then once our test execution is completed, and in the end we'll just dynamically check the whether the text message that we need to look for in our log file is there or not, right? So now I have already implemented this part. Let us check it in the code section. So I have created two bat files here. This is our start docker.bat, which is responsible for Docker compose up and capturing the logs as well. And this is stop docker, which is just responsible for turning down the Docker compose, right? And now talking about the other class which will come into the picture. Docker manager class, right? Which will be responsible for triggering both the bat files, then checking the logs, which will be generated in this log file, okay, and checking for some specific messages. And what those messages will be, let us quickly check them. So what I'll do, I will just open this. Yeah, this is already opened, and let me open a command prompt here. So we will look for a message which clearly identifies that all the process related to initial setup are completed. So this is the message, right? After this, nothing is happening. Node has been added. So we will take this message as a verification message, which will signal that the initial setup for Docker is completed, right? So I have already done it here. Let me show you that part. So here, node has been added. So this is a started message. Now let us see what is a message related to when this Docker Compose will be down. And why we said that like single log file will be able to capture the logs for both up and down. For that, let me open one more command prompt here, right? And I'll just do a down, and we'll keep an eye here. See, the logs are generated here, and here we have Selenium Hub exited with code 0, right? So if I go here, so I have taken this as my stopped message, right? Now these things are clear, and this is just you can say a way of reaching up to the log file. So log file will be generated in the root directory. Here I am coming to the root directory, and this is the name of my log file, logs.txt, which I have provided here as well, right? Now coming to the next part, uh, mainly this file is, we will see these functions as well, but let us first discuss how these will come into the picture. For that, we need to go into this main method, which is responsible for starting and stopping the bat files. For starting, we have created a instance for runtime class, and then we are using the exec method for triggering the bat files, right? This is the command. Then once we trigger this command, we need to wait for some time before this file is created in our root directory. So for that, what we can do is like we can just check using the files class static files class static method exist, whether a file which we have specified here in this particular root directory txt file is existing or not, right? Once the file will be created, we will see this in our console that log file is created. Now coming back, once the log file has been created, we'll wait till the started message is there, right? We need to uh, check about this particular message that node has been added. So for that, again, like here I have just taken a time constraint, like say currently when my execution started, the time is say 37 minute and 1 second, right? I do not want to keep waiting on this particular loop for longer time, so that's why I have mentioned that just wait for a 40-second window, because I know that will be sufficient for me, right? So this while loop will be triggered only for 40 seconds. After that, if nothing will happen, then we'll have a runtime exception that either grid is not started or it is not terminated, because this method will be responsible for waiting for both the things, right? So here, this is just a way of comparing the two local time instances, you can say, right? And apart from that, now coming to the this person here, we are reading the entire message of that log file. Okay, and we'll keep it reading till the time we find this particular, like either we'll keep it reading for 40 seconds, and within each read we what we are checking for is like the message which we are passing from here, right? In case of start, we are waiting for our started message. So here, if the file content contains our started message, we will set up started as a true, right? And then if we see that started is true, this will not come into the picture. So within 40 seconds, this started cell be set to true. Otherwise, it will throw this runtime exception, which we have configured here, that grid is not set up or grid is not terminated. Okay, so this will be for start. For stop as well, we need to execute the command and then we need to wait again for the specific message related to stop, and the same logic is there, right? Now, one extra thing we have here in this class is we are deleting this file as well, and we are not deleting it after our like after our Docker compose is down, because chances are you want to see the logs as well, right? Once your execution is completed, so it will make more sense to clear it once, like before the starting of your say Docker compose up, and because at that time a log file is being generated and you want fresh log in every run. So for that, like whenever this Docker compose will come into the picture, at that time we will be deleting the file, right? Because we are using the single instance for both, like if I go to my test class where I am using it, so this constructor is being called once only, and normally like you will be doing this in either at the rate after suit or at the rate before suit. In at the rate before suit, you will be triggering this particular method action docker to start, because you want it once for your entire test execution, right? So like you do not want it for each before test or after test. So ideally there will be one trigger before you want to execute your test, and once your complete test execution, once you are done with the test execution, at that time as well there will be a action for stopping it, right? So here we are using the same instance, and this instance will be responsible for whenever this instance is coming into the picture here. So at the start itself it will be responsible for deleting the txt file as well, and a fresh txt file will be generated when this will come into the picture, right? So let us see this thing in action. First, what I'll do is I'll clean the logs, and here we'll say docker ps. We do not see any container as of here, right? So, and again for Selenium Grid as well, it is not up and running as of now because no containers are there. Now I will trigger the test. We'll keep an eye on the console as well, in command prompt as well. Let me close this one. Here as well we'll trigger docker ps, and we'll keep an eye here as well in our Selenium Grid URL. See, the first command prompt has been executed, like first bat file has been executed. The logs are being sent to the logs.txt, and if I go here, because as of now the file was not there, there was no log.txt file, so the deleted operation didn't come into the picture. We do not see this log here. In our next run, we'll do one more run just to check whether our file is being deleted or not. And as I have used the same test of our previous tutorial. There was parallel execution on Firefox, Edge and Chrome. Okay, you see now we have the Dockers containers up here. We already have a Docker node and hub. So if yeah, you see, and the session has also started. So we didn't do anything manually. We just triggered our test, and we can see the grid has set up automatically. And now tests will come here as well. And there will be video containers as well. So as of now, these are browser containers. Once the test will come into the picture, see, video containers has started to roll up, and we have 3 sessions here. So log file is created, grid is up. Okay, so we have all the 3 tests here, and these are passed. And now containers will be removed from the system as well. Let us quickly check that. So video containers have started to go down, and the down command has also triggered, right? Now the browser, like these are this Docker node and then Selenium hub. These are like this particular one is responsible for dynamically setting up the nodes as per the test cases, right? And we can see the test has been executed. And if I go here now and do a docker ps, we do not see any container. Now let us check the log file which is generated as well. Where is open in Explorer? And so we have the entire logs here, right? Here we have the Selenium have exited with code 0, and here when your test came into the picture, and we will have our start message here as well, like video container started. So entire log is here. Let's search for our started message. See, here we have node has been added, right? Now the next thing is we need to check whether this log file is deleted or not. And for triggering the test execution faster, what I'll do is, for fast execution, let me go to testng.xml. What I'll do is I'll comment these 2 tests, and we can save it. Let me trigger the test. Okay, at the rate before suit come into the picture. and we shall see the message file deleted as well, right? At this moment, a new file is generated, right? The previous file has been removed, and this is for the current run. You can check it from this timestamp as well. This means 820 plus 530, that means 1350, right? So this is for current run, and file deleted, log file is created, grid is up and running. Let us go to the grid, and this time there will be only one session. We have commented out the other two tests, and execution is faster now, and you can see now the down command is being triggered. The Docker node has been removed, Selenium hub has been removed, and test has been executed completely, right? So this is it for this video, guys, and we have covered all the points which were there in the agenda. I will share these notes and also the link to the GitHub repo of this current video in the description section. In case you have any comment, any feedback, do let me know in the comment section of the video. And in case you are liking the content that I'm making, please do like and subscribe, and do share it with your QA friends as well. Thank you, guys. See you in the next video.